Have you ever wondered if the hidden depths of your personality, those sort of subtle parts of yourself you rarely show, could somehow be mapped onto your very own body? Today, we're going on a deep dive to explore exactly that. We're going to uncover a fascinating concept, a specific inner persona or subpersonality named Devon. And Devon is, well, uniquely embodied through four distinct parts of the human body: the knees, the liver, the amygdala, and the mitochondria.
Right. And our mission for you today is to unpack not just the scientific facts, which are interesting enough, but also the really rich symbolic meanings of these four body parts. We want to show you how their interplay paints this nuanced, almost, poetic portrait of Devon. But this isn't just about Devon, is it? It's kind of a shortcut to understanding how complex human traits can be mirrored in our biology, yes, but also in the powerful cultural narratives we've woven around ourselves for, well, millennia.
Exactly. And to guide us, we're drawing from the stack of meticulously detailed research notes. They cover both the anatomy, the science, and the profound cultural and symbolic aspects of each of these four body parts. We really tried to extract the most impactful nuggets of knowledge and insight just for you. So let's jump right in.
Okay, to begin our journey, let's consider the knees. A part of our body we often take for granted, maybe, but one loaded with surprising meaning. Scientifically, what's truly remarkable about their fundamental design and function?
Well, from a purely functional standpoint, the knees are primary hinge joints. They are absolute workhorses for locomotion, really. They bear our weight, they provide stabilization, and they allow for this incredible flexion and extension of our legs. They basically underpin almost every movement we make: running, kneeling, standing, pivoting. Anatomically, it's quite a marvel. You have the large bones, the femur and tibia meeting, capped by the patella, that's your kneecap, and it's all held together by this complex network of powerful muscles like the quadriceps and hamstrings and crucial ligaments. You often hear about those in sports injuries, right? The ACL, PCL, they provide stability, prevent unwanted movement.
It's incredible how such a seemingly simple hinge joint involves so much intricate engineering. It's amazing. And how do these structures develop or even, recover when injured?
They form quite early, actually, from tiny limb buds. The joints themselves kind of hollow out through a process called apoptosis, which is essentially programmed cell death. It's fascinating how our body precisely sculpts itself. And humans, well, we have a unique evolutionary advantage with our knees. They're specifically adapted for our full upright bipedal gait and offer superior shock absorption compared to our primate relatives. But yes, you're right, they're prone to injuries, ACL tears, meniscus damage, things like that. What's especially fascinating, I think, from a neuroscience perspective, is their role in proprioception. That's how our nerves constantly detect and relay information about joint position and movement to the brain. This connection is so deep that in trauma survivors, the knees can even manifest psychogenic pain. It really shows their powerful role in embodied memory.
Well, given that deep connection between movement, vulnerability, even memory, it absolutely makes sense that knees would carry such profound symbolic weight. How did that evolve culturally?
Exactly. Culturally, knees are just packed with symbolism. Think about kneeling, right? In devotion, penance, or knighthood ceremonies, it signifies submission, sure, but also deep respect, a sense of being grounded, humility. And we use idioms constantly that reflect this. Brought to your knees for defeat or surrender, or feeling weak in the knees when you're overwhelmed by love or fear. It's baked into our language. Yet, look at dance. Whether it's the elegant pliés in ballet or the strong stances in martial arts, the knees are core to communicating strength or softness or tension. They're central to so many rituals, too. Marriage proposals, moments of profound protest and solidarity. They show both vulnerability and powerful conviction, sometimes at the same time.
Okay, so if we pull this all together, how do his knees, Devon's knees, reflect his unique approach to his inner world?
Well, think about it. Knees enable motion, flexibility, but kneeling also symbolizes surrender, grief, prayer. Now, for Devon, the notes suggest he rarely kneels. And when he does, it's an incredibly deliberate, chosen act. It's not presented as weakness, but rather a conscious display of restraint, maybe power held in reserve. So his knees symbolize a humility that's been earned through experience, not just given freely, and a deep resilience under pressure. Emotionally, you could almost say he's learned to live on bended metaphorical knees. Not broken, no, but as someone who's knelt before his own darkness, stared it down, and then consciously chosen to stand back up, stronger for it.
That's powerful. From the outward expression of power in the knees, let's turn inward now, to an organ often hidden, the liver, yet burning with significance. From a purely scientific perspective, what are the liver's most fundamental functions?
Oh, the liver is an absolute powerhouse, no question.
Mm.
Its primary role is filtering every single drop of blood in your bottle. It processes nutrients from digestion, it detoxifies chemicals, metabolizes drugs. It also produces bile, which is absolutely crucial for fat digestion. It's central to almost every major bodily system. Digestive, circulatory, endocrine, immune. It's connected to everything. It's this reddish brown, kind of football-sized organ tucked away in the upper right abdomen. And it works really closely with the gallbladder, pancreas, and kidneys. It handles things like glucose regulation, cholesterol balance. But here's what's truly astonishing and really a key detail for our discussion of Devon. Its incredible capacity for regeneration. Up to 70% of it can regrow. That makes it one of the body's most resilient organs.
70% regeneration, that's incredible. Given that raw biological power, it makes total sense that the liver would attract such deep symbolic meaning across cultures. Where did those connections come from?
It's fascinating, isn't it? In many ancient traditions, the liver wasn't just an organ. It represented things like anger, courage, vitality. You think of the Greek myth of Prometheus, right? His liver was eaten daily by an eagle, only to regenerate overnight. That's a stark acknowledgement of its regenerative power, but also a metaphor for endless suffering and maybe endless renewal, too. Ancient Chinese medicine specifically links the liver to emotional regulation and even vision. And look at our language again. Idioms like being full of bile for resentment, or older terms like being liverish, meaning ill-tempered, they reflect this perceived role in processing negative emotions. And get this, in ancient Mesopotamia, they practiced liver divination, hepatoscopy. Priests would examine the livers of sacrificed animals for omens, literally trying to read the future in the organ's patterns. So in literature and art, the liver often becomes this metaphor for transformation through suffering, for endurance, rebirth through pain. It's seen as an alchemy organ, taking raw poison and transforming it into power.
An alchemy organ. I like that. So if we connect this back to the bigger picture, how does the liver reflect Devon's character, especially with that Prometheus connection you mentioned?
Well, the liver detoxifies, right? It symbolically stores pain, and it converts poison into power. This mirrors Devon's way of processing trauma almost perfectly. He doesn't seem to outwardly vent it. He metabolizes it internally, turning it into strength. He's described as the type of person who metaphorically drinks from his own bitterness and turns it into blade steel. So for him, the liver symbolizes this profound emotional transformation, an inner fire that purifies through suffering, and a kind of silent endurance. No show, no applause needed. There's definitely a dark edge to it, though. Like Prometheus, he carries the sheer weight of what he knows, what he's endured. Yet, just like the liver itself, he never stops regenerating, always finding a way to renew his strength, even after the deepest wounds. It's quite profound.
Okay, let's shift gears now into the brain, specifically the amygdala, tiny but mighty, as they say. From a neuroscience perspective, what does it really do? It's more than just fear, right?
Oh, much more. Its primary role is processing emotion, especially fear, threat detection, aggression. That's true. But you're absolutely right. Calling it just the fear center is way too simple. It's deeply involved in emotional memory, our fight or flight response, sure, but also recognizing facial expressions and even the really intricate processes of attachment and social bonding. What it really does is assign emotional salience, basically, importance or intensity to any experience, whether that's joy, danger, rage, love. The amygdala flags it as emotionally significant. It's a paired structure, deep within the medial temporal lobe, part of the limbic system, and it talks constantly with the hippocampus for memory, the prefrontal cortex for regulation, trying to keep things in check, and the hypothalamus for triggering those automatic body responses. It uses all sorts of neurotransmitters, glutamate, GABA, norepinephrine, to amplify or dampen our emotional responses. And here's a key thing. It's incredibly plastic. That means it can change. It can be sensitized by trauma, yes, but it can also be regulated by therapy or even strengthened by practices like meditation. An overactive amygdala that's linked to things like heightened fear, anxiety, PTSD. An underactive one, maybe a lack of fear response, risky behavior.
It's just incredible how a structure so small can have such a profound impact on our entire emotional landscape. It really shapes our experience of the world. So this raises an important question. Beyond the hard science, how do we understand the amygdala symbolically?
Symbolically, yeah, it's often seen as the watchdog, maybe the survivor, or even the flame bearer. It embodies vigilance, that sense of emotional urgency, protectiveness, reactivity. Its shadow aspect, of course, can be hypervigilance, getting stuck in trauma loops, emotional hijacking. But its light aspect, that's pure passion, loyalty, immediate gut wisdom, instinct. It's what gives your life story its fire, you know? By encoding those emotionally significant memories, it shapes how we feel about our own past. Pop culture often oversimplifies it, like you said, just the fear center. But think maybe of Cerberus, the three-headed dog guarding the underworld in mythology, primal, loyal, reactive. That's amygdala energy. It gives intensity to meaning. A moment without the amygdala firing would feel, well, blank, neutral, flat. Philosophically, it reminds us we are creatures who feel before we think. Meaning isn't neutral. The amygdala assigns weight, threat, urgency to everything we encounter.
What stands out to you about how the amygdala connects specifically to Devon? You mentioned his fire discipline earlier.
Right. The amygdala detects threat, fires those emotional salvos. Fear, anger, passion. For Devon, his vigilance is described as second nature. He apparently reads tension in a room like others read words. His reactions, while often calculated, seem deeply rooted in something primal, a gut instinct honed by tough experience. So it symbolizes an emotional intelligence forged in pain, maybe. A hyper-awareness, like a soldier who never quite unlearned the battlefield mentality. It's fire, definitely, but it's focused, directed, and potentially dangerous fire. His shadow side is that trauma loop, that flashpoint potential. It's hinted he's not ruled by it anymore, not completely hijacked. His calm is described as being built on fire discipline. The hard one, disciplined control of that intense inner flame.
Built on fire discipline. Okay, finally, let's explore something even more microscopic, yet so profoundly foundational to our very existence, the mitochondria. What are these tiny powerhouses actually doing inside us?
Mitochondria, they're fundamental. They're the primary producers of ATP adenosine triphosphate, which is basically the energy currency of every single cell in your body. Everything runs on ATP. They're involved in cellular respiration. That's how we get energy from food and oxygen, calcium signaling, even apoptosis, programmed cell death. So they're foundational and regulatory. They have a say in when a cell lives or dies. Structurally, they have a double membrane. The inner one is highly folded. Think of it like crumpling paper inside a bag, which massively increases the surface area for energy production. And uniquely, they have their own DNA, mitochondrial DNA or mtDNA, which is separate from the DNA in our cell nucleus. The theory is they evolved over like 1.5 billion years ago from free-living bacteria that got incorporated into our ancestor cells through endosymbiosis. Basically, ancient bacteria living inside our cells, now essential partners. These little powerhouses can even multiply independently within a cell if more energy is needed. Dysfunction, that's linked to mitochondrial diseases, neurodegenerative conditions like Parkinson's, chronic fatigue. But importantly, cells can increase their number of mitochondria in response to stress, like endurance training. Shows incredible adaptability.
It's just astounding that something so small, possibly once foreign, could be so absolutely foundational. Okay, so they're the silent power plants. How do we interpret their symbolic power?
Symbolically, they're the engine, the fire stoker, the battery pack. They represent energy, willpower, that deep inner flame that keeps us going even when things are tough. You could even see them as tiny alchemists, turning raw material food, oxygen, into sheer power. Psychologically, they kind of represent quiet productivity, deep, unshakable resilience. When people talk about feeling truly burnt out, you could almost describe that metaphorically as mitochondrial fatigue on a soul level, right? It's tapping into that deep reserve when you're exhausted but just not done yet. In music, maybe think of a sub-bass frequency or a looping rhythm, constant, driving, foundational but not always obvious, mythologically. Maybe echoes of Hestia, goddess of the hearth, always keeping the home fire burning quietly. Or Prometheus again, stealing fire, giving that spark. Philosophically, they seem to whisper, be still but burn. They embody inner life, what is invisible on the surface but makes everything else possible. They teach us that true power doesn't have to shout, it just relentlessly, quietly keeps going.
Be still but burn. I love that. So how do these silent, relentless powerhouses connect to Devon's own relentless, almost subterranean drive?
Well, mitochondria fuel everything, right? They are the invisible engines of our very being. Devon, as described, embodies pure drive, but it's subterranean. It's not flashy. He doesn't flaunt his energy or his will. He burns hot in silence. So this symbolizes persistence without needing applause, a burning energy that doesn't beg to be seen or acknowledged by others. It's that quiet, often unseen ability to just keep going, even after everyone else has maybe given up or stopped, fueled by some kind of internal furnace. Philosophically, it suggests Devon doesn't run on fleeting dreams or external validation. He runs on a profound, unyielding internal will. He's almost living proof that sometimes the fire you hide is what truly keeps you alive.
Wow. What a profound journey into the self this has been, really. From the purposeful kneeling of the knees to the regenerative power of the liver, the watchful instinct of the amygdala, and that silent, relentless drive of the mitochondria. We've explored how these four aspects create this truly unique, multi-layered portrait of the subpersonality, Devon.
Absolutely. And through looking at Devon this way, you can really see how deeply our physical forms, our biology, and the stories we tell about them, the symbols, the myths, are intertwined with our inner lives. This deep dive really shows how complex human traits, resilience, processing pain, vigilance, quiet determination can be mirrored in everything from our joints right down to our cellular engines. It's a remarkable way to understand those connections between body and mind, or body and soul, perhaps.
It really makes you think differently about how we perceive ourselves, and maybe others too, doesn't it? Perhaps the parts of ourselves we tend to hide, the pain we process silently, or that relentless drive we rarely show. Maybe those are exactly what define our deepest resilience and power.
Exactly. And that leaves us and leaves you with a final provocative thought to maybe mull over. What hidden body parts, real or metaphorical, might be symbolizing your own internal alchemy? What are the core traits, the unsung engines that truly define you, even if, or perhaps especially because, they remain unseen?